Welcome to a brand new edition of What's That Movie. I am your host, as always, Norman McGuire, and I'm here with my lovely, talented co-host, Kaz Mintrow. Kaz, welcome back to the show.
You said I was lovely.
I tell Kayla she's lovely too, and she doesn't do that.
She's a girl.
True. Anyways, today's episode is about superhero films, which is another quite popular genre. I know with this guy over here.
Not many people get to see me geek out, so you're lucky.
So this is going to be an interesting episode. Today we're not going to be discussing the movies individually like we do in past episodes. We're going to be talking about it in general. And some of these films obviously are going to be talked about, but this is a whole spectrum of superhero films, so put your seatbelt on, it's going to be a bumpy ride. Okay, you want to start out?
Sure.
Let's start with the good of superhero films.
Well, I love superhero movies.
Here's another question. So forget the first one. What should be in the ideal superhero film? What needs to be in it?
I mean, the ideal superhero film is that it should be supers with supers. That's my main issue with like the Batman series, is because, you know, I don't really like Batman. I try to stay away from that. I'm not a huge DC fan, but a good superhero to me would be like the Avengers. The Avengers was really, really well done. They put a little too much comedy in it for me. Because
that'll be in the bed.
Yeah, I mean, superhero movies are supposed to be action. They're not supposed to be this comedy thing. Iron Man can get away with it because he's got that really cocky ego and he's all about himself. But I mean, in the Avengers, I mean, that shot with, you know, the Hulk punching Thor and he goes off the screen, whatever. It's fine, but for a superhero movie, it's unnecessary. You know, it's not a comedy, it's an action movie. So, I mean, superhero movies definitely need action. They definitely need really, really good special effects. The ideal superhero movie to me would be as many supers as they can put into one film.
When you say supers, it's superheroes, right?
Supers, just superheroes,
Okay.
supervillains.
I just wanted to make sure.
Every superhero movie needs a supervillain.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking like Sky High and crap like that. No. That was not. No. I'm talking about legit supers. So, you know.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things in a superhero film should, because obviously you have a comic book standpoint, I have a film standpoint, and I think as a writer that I am, you need the story as well for people to care.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you write a movie, especially a superhero one, you need a protagonist,
Mm-hmm.
you need an antagonist, and you need a reason why they're butting heads.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can accomplish those three things, I think you have a successful film. And I think that's the perfect scenario for a superhero film, wouldn't you say? Like, you need a strong villain. Obviously.
Deadpool. Somebody out there, make a friggin' Deadpool movie. I will be the first person in line. I love Deadpool. I've read pretty much every single comic on Deadpool. He is my favorite. Whoever's the first person to make a Deadpool movie, you're my idol. And I'm not talking about friggin' X-Men Origin crap Deadpool. That wasn't Deadpool, that was an embarrassment.
They have made a lot of popular superhero movies, and what I mean by that is the most because for me, I don't read comic books, I'm sorry, don't hate me, but the population I represent who don't read comics, but the heroes they know about are Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, so on and so forth. Those are the most recognizable. I think that's why they become films.
Oh yeah.
So that's why probably, like you said, I've never heard of Deadpool. So.
You should have. He's sitting on my nightstand.
Oh, is that him?
Yes.
Oh, okay. But you know what I mean. Like, my population may not know a lot of other smaller comic book characters.
Right.
So
yeah,
I think that's
what
what
thing
the films go for, are the more recognizable.
And that's why X-Men. That was one of the original. X-Men,
yeah, those were
Spider-Man,
Spider-Man,
you know,
like
those two are the big ones because everyone knows that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, then Iron Man, Batman's been going on forever, obviously. But some of the newer ones that they're bringing back, Hulk's come back. They had a whole set there. Superman, they're bringing that back. But some of the newer ones that they're introducing, you've got Thor coming into play now with his set and Loki and everything. Captain America was recently done.
Avengers.
Well,
I know, obviously, but I mean, that's another one coming out as a sequel.
Right, and they're coming up with, they're starting to introduce more of these characters.
Has Wonder Woman done a movie before?
So,
she hasn't had a movie, has she?
I think she has a couple appearances, but not a movie
one
based on
dedicated
her, I don't think.
Name, in your opinion, the top 3 superhero films that you've seen.
The top 3 would, my favorites, personally.
Or if you can't put them into 3, just throw some on the top of your head.
Right. I would say The Dark Knight is probably number 1.
This will
over here.
That one?
Yeah, The Dark Knight. As much as I don't really care for Batman, and it's nothing against DC or anything, but Batman's not really a superhero. He's just a really rich dude. There's that controversy.
But
under the category of superhero films, which it is.
Did you like it because of Batman, or did you like it because of the Joker?
I liked it because of the Joker, which is why I wasn't really going to.
That's why a lot of the majority of people liked it.
It's really on its own list. So that's up there.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely Heath Ledger makes that film. If Heath Ledger was not in it,
we've had a discussion before.
I don't even know. So for legit superhero movies, I would peg Thor as my favorite. Mm-hmm. Love Thor. X2 would be my second favorite. Thor, X2. And X2, I love Nightcrawler. So, really all the Porters, Nightcrawler, Deadpool, all of them. Great. That intro is probably my favorite intro of all time, with Nightcrawler and the presidential scene. It's wonderful. So, there's those two. My third favorite, that's a toughie. See, I don't know if that would be...
These are no specific order, right?
No, it would be Thor, and then X2 would be my favorite too.
Okay.
My third favorite, it's a little iffy. It might be Iron Man. I don't really know though. I do like Iron Man. I like how he's portrayed in the film, but he's not one of my favorite superheroes. Again, if they made something with Deadpool, obviously he would be number 1. But never really cared for the Spider-Man in the comics all that much. Once they started making the movies, I liked them, never. I was more of an X-Men fan, so.
Now I guess it's a good time to go into the bad. And before we go into where I know we're going to be going, let's just name some of the bad superhero movies that have been out there.
Spider-Man 3. It was terrible. Awful.
There's been some embarrassments too. Catwoman with Halle Berry. Never seen that one. The first Hulk that they did.
Yeah.
Because they did 2, I believe.
I wasn't a huge fan of any of the really original stuff. I wasn't a fan of the old Batmans and the old Supermans and the old Hulks and, that stuff. And I think the main reason is because, personally, I do special effects and motion graphics, so I'm all about the effects and the digitalization of stuff. And, for them to be making superhero movies that early when the technology really wasn't there, it makes it hard. So it's kind of like watching a film that you're just like, I'm used to all this new age stuff. I'm used to all this really, really great special effects like Thor,
Yeah.
So.
And if you watched our Amazing Spider-Man preview, Kaz touched on this next subject. Comedy in superhero movies.
Oh, yeah.
That's something you're not a fan of.
I don't like it.
You have the table.
I don't like comedy in superhero movies. Unless it's supposed to be there. Iron Man does it well. Again, it's because of that ego that Iron Man is supposed to have. But the Avengers, it was a wonderful movie, don't get me wrong. Loved seeing all the superheroes there together. But they could have just done without a lot of that comedy. It wasn't necessary. It was just over the top, and yeah, I mean, it was just not necessary. A superhero movie is supposed to be action-packed, you know? So, really, Thor was great because you've got that scene where he slams the cup down and he wants more, and he breaks the cup and shatters it everywhere. And that's funny, but it fits, though, because he's from this other dimension, I mean, or, well, other world, whatever you want to call it, and he comes down to Earth, and, you know, nothing's really the same there. You can't. So, I mean, that fits. The punching shot with Hulk and Thor and the Avengers, again, it was funny, made me laugh in the theater, but it was unnecessary completely. So.
It's obviously superhero films are dramatic, so there's a lot of dramatic moments, a lot of sad moments. Do you think the reason they have these come is to lift that mood?
Yeah, I mean, that could definitely be a part of it. But again, that's the genre that they fit in. You don't need to lighten the mood of a dramatic movie, otherwise soap operas wouldn't exist.
Another disclaimer.
Well, they shouldn't.
I don't know, I can't speak for you, but you talk about how the comedies plots and some of these movies don't belong. We're not saying they're not funny.
Right, no. They are funny. I definitely laughed in the theater, embarrassed myself a little bit.
But it just doesn't fit into the story.
It just doesn't belong.
Yeah. Which I don't think...
I'm a huge comedy fan.
I agree with you to that extent, because I think in these kinds of movies, I think everyone in it needs to be taken seriously.
Mm.
I mean, if you have a comedic superhero like we saw in Amazing Spider-Man, I forget the man who played Spider-Man, he was very comedic.
Garfunkel.
Garfield's his last name.
Or whatever, Garfield, Garfunkel.
And if you have these sarcastic superheroes, no one's going to take them seriously. And that way, the fan thinks the bad guy's going to win, which obviously is not going to be the case, but
right.
If you're going to have a very comedic superhero going up against this evil villain, the superhero has no chance.
Again, sometimes it fits, sometimes it doesn't. With Iron Man, it works. With the Avengers, it doesn't. As good as the Avengers was, I'll definitely purchase it, so.
You do not know, Paparazzi Productions has a new series called The Director's Chair, and I think this would be a perfect opportunity to Director's Chair, but right now, if, like I said earlier, you make your perfect film, your perfect
list.
Yeah, or your perfect movie, okay?
Oh, yeah, your ideal movie.
I want you, you want to see Deadpool.
Absolutely.
If you are given, you're in the director's chair, you're given the right to make this movie, how would you make it perfect? How would you do everything to the T?
Oh, jeez, that's.
We don't have to, think elaborately about it, but just off the top of your head, how would you make sure, the dedicated fan following that the comics have, they will be...
I mean, Deadpool doesn't really have a dedicated fan base all that much. Deadpool is, he's not a character that you see a lot. He doesn't really, he jumps into certain series every once in a while, but pretty much he keeps to himself. He doesn't really fit in the category. I mean, he's a mercenary, really. He's not a good guy, he's not a bad guy, he's just, gun for hire, really. So, to me, he would have to have the same comic relief that Deadpool has. And Deadpool, for all of those who don't know, Deadpool is hysterical. Absolutely hilarious. And so, to make that a comedy would be fine. I mean, not a comedy as in the genre, but...
Action comedy.
Yeah, action comedy. Kind of like Iron Man. I mean... but, keep it Deadpool. You gotta stick to the character. The characters are already created, which is one of the issues, is that a lot of these superhero movies, they'll take and just alter all of their timeline and stuff, and that really crushes a comic book fan. Because it's in one reason is because, like I said, the characters are already made. That eliminates that process in the video process. You know, you don't have to go and invent these characters like you do in every other movie. Like Jack Sparrow, that was a created character that they made up.
Right.
He's got nothing to follow to, so that's fine.
They
You
can
write
do
him.
anything with
They
him.
can do whatever they want. But the characters that are already written need to stay that way, because I mean they're not your characters. You didn't invent them. You're just using them. So they need to stay like that. And if they were gonna make a Deadpool movie, it would have to be like Deadpool.
Now, is this a wrong assumption? Do you think people, like, I'm going to go onto this tangent here, with Spider-Man, what do you care more about, Peter Parker or Spider-Man?
Oh, Spider-Man. Spider-Man's
Okay, so
the hero.
this brings out my next question. Do you think some of these films dedicate too much time to the character itself more than the superhero?
No, because that goes along the lines of to see the person that there is. Like, you're
Right,
not going
right.
to get that kind of attachment to Spider-Man that you
Right.
would get with a real person.
Right, I understand that, but I mean, because Spider-Man, I think there's a lot of dedication to Peter and MJ.
Right.
Like, with their relationship, at least I felt there was more dedicated to that than him being Spider-Man.
Right, but I mean, that's really to just tell the story, I think.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I thought the Spider-Man set was alright. The first two were pretty good. The third one was terrible. The fourth one was also pretty bad. I mean, they really kind of screwed the lizard over because he had a human face. He didn't even look like a lizard head. So, but don't even get me started on that film.
Yeah, you heard it on
So,
the review.
but yeah, in any case, yeah, the first two were fine. And they use the character as story, which, I mean, for certain superheroes you can't even do that, because, I mean, some of them, for example, Deadpool, you're probably not going to see him at all without his mask on, because he's got a whole bunch of stuff wrong with him, which you would know if you read the comic books, but, so, it'd be better if you didn't see his face, really. So, I mean, that kind of eliminates some of that story. For certain superheroes. But,
It's quite obvious superhero films are not going away anytime soon.
oh no.
Because there's a lot more coming out over the next several years. I mean, we have probably another Captain America one coming out, I would assume.
I don't really care for Captain America, though. I thought it was alright, but
I think there's another Wolverine movie coming out, I believe.
they really need to stop with that.
The Avengers. You know, how The Dark Knight Rises ends, it wouldn't surprise me if they continue with that line. And we're not going to give away the ending.
I mean,
For those who've seen the ending, you'll know what we're talking about.
The Dark Knight trilogy is over.
Mm-hmm.
Batman is not.
No.
Batman's gonna keep
Christopher
that.
Nolan, who directed, produced whatever he did with the movies, he's done.
Yeah.
Rises was his last one.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's not going to continue.
Rises is a complete set, and I think that's fine. They did a really good job. It's one of my favorite trilogies. Yeah, they need to move on to something new. So, and again, not giving anything away.
Yeah, which would make perfect sense because it's the perfect way just to segue off that. Real quick, can we talk about The Dark Knight Rises real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Dark Knight Rises,
wonderful.
an amazing movie.
Bane was awesome.
Now, in the first one, Heath Ledger.
Second. Ledger's in the second.
Heath Ledger's not the second one. I mean the Dark Knight, the first Dark Knight.
Batman Begins is the first.
Right, but I'm talking about the Dark Knights.
Right.
But in the first, he got the praise and all that stuff. Like,
Right.
He was an amazing character. You know, you don't agree with me when I say this, but in my opinion, that spot, I think, for the Rises goes to Anne Hathaway, who played Catwoman, right?
Yeah.
She was Catwoman.
Mm-hmm.
She did an amazing job.
Yeah, she did pretty good.
Phenomenal job.
I
She's come a
just-
long way since the Princess Diaries.
Well,
She did a very good job in that. If she does not get an Oscar nod or anything like that, I'm gonna be surprised.
well, I don't really.
She
I
was
mean,
good.
I really, really enjoyed Bane. I mean, all the characters worked very well
Can you
together.
say that just once?
Bane. I really enjoyed Bane.
No.
Who's Bane?
What?
Oh, I was born in the dark.
Thank you.
But in any case, Yeah. Bane was awesome. I was very worried for them because Batman Begins was...
Who was the villain?
It was so-so, Scarecrow. It was so-so. And then The Dark Knight Rises, I mean, the bar just went way up. The bar just skyrocketed. I mean, you cannot...
There's a certain expectation going into that movie.
In that movie, you can't touch Heath Ledger.
And I think they did. They didn't touch him, but I think there's a high expectation for the second one, and I think it got surpassed.
When I went into The Dark Knight Rises, I was like, how the hell are they going to top The Dark Knight?
Who were you with when you saw that?
The Dark Knight Rises? Who was it?
The first time?
Was I with you?
Mm-hmm. And your sister.
The first time. Okay, yeah. Okay, I was with Norman the first... I don't know. I've seen it 3 times. I'm sorry. Not as much as my stepbrother. He saw it 11 times in theater. Honestly, it's a waste of money, but it's a good movie, so... but in any case, I was very concerned because I was like, man, how are they going to compare this to The Dark Knight to The Dark Knight? That was such a phenomenal movie. And you know what? I think that they did a great job. I'm not sure if it was as good as The Dark Knight, but if not, it was damn close. And I think that is huge. I mean, the main issue with that is that The Dark Knight in that trilogy feels a little out of place. And I'm talking about The Dark Knight as in Heath Ledger. It feels a little out of place because Batman Begins is more... It fits better with The Dark Knight Rises. The style is very similar. The color is very similar. So The Dark Knight Rises doesn't feel like a sequel to The Dark Knight. It feels more like a sequel to Batman Begins. And that's something that, I mean, because they even pull in Ra's al Ghul again, and they do all of that stuff with him. So definitely those two are more closely tied than The Dark Knight. So out of those 3 movies, The Dark Knight feels a little out of place. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's for you guys to decide. But
yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Do you feel Heath Ledger was missing in the movie when you watched it?
No, I felt like it was very complete. Like I said, it's one of my favorite trilogies of all time because they did a phenomenal job on all 3 movies. So.
And there's not a lot of movies where I go to see it and I want to see it again. And that was The Dark Knight Rises. I wanted to see it again, and that doesn't happen often.
To me, that was, I mean, and we just did the Pirates of the Caribbean last week. You know, we're talking about trilogies and we're doing everything in sets right now. And I mean, that's just kind of how things go right now. And out of all of the trilogies or, you know, movies with more than 3 movies, whatever, like the Spider-Man set and everything, the Dark Knight and Pirates of the Caribbean, the first 3, are probably the best 2 trilogies that I personally think. The Spider-Man set, let's see, 3 sucked, 4 sucked. The X-Men set, everything after 2 sucked. So.
And I think that's because of the expectations. I think people have too much expectations going into movies.
Well, and I mean, talk about the X-Men a little bit. I'm not sure how long we've been ranting on for.
No, who cares?
But
we're partners with YouTube. We can go in as long as we want.
For X-Men, X-Men 1 was a decent movie. To me, because that movie came out, Christ, I don't even know how long ago.
X-Men?
I know that, yeah. I was pretty young when it came out.
3 or 4?
I still had a VHS player.
When you have that, you know it's old school.
I was terrified when I first saw that movie, and I mean I was a kid when I first saw it, so I mean I was freaked out by that movie, but I really like that movie. X2, however, I mean the bar just jumped way up with X2, and I don't know if it's just because of my personal preference with having Nightcrawler there, and I freaking love Nightcrawler, yeah. X2 was phenomenal. X3, I mean, why'd you kill Cyclops? What was the point of that? You idiots.
Spoiler alert.
But in any case, well, if you haven't seen X3, then
Right.
that movie's pretty old too.
Yeah, but when you give away stuff, you have to do a spoiler alert.
X4, whatever you want to call it, X-Men Origins, whatever. X-Men First Class.
It's been a lot of movies.
I mean, spoiler alert, why the hell did you die with a quarter in the head? Like, what? That was such a stupid... Like, you were such a boss, and then you just died like a pansy. What? So, but in any case, yeah, X1 and X2 were really good. X2 more so.
I think you should do the director's chair and rewrite the X-Men franchise. I think that's what we're going to do for you.
Oh, yeah?
So look out for that. I think that about wraps it up for today. As you heard, we may have him on a director's chair episode soon. Look out for Kayla Marie Albert's director's chair episode where she rewrote the Twilight Saga. Not a lot of Kristen Stewart love in that's for sure. And also look for mine where I write Final Destination 6 through 8. A lot of thinking on my part, which, if you know me, is not a very good sight. And then we'll sign him to a contract and rewrite the X-Men franchise. It seems like you didn't very happy with that.
X2 though, can't touch X2. That Nightcrawler opening, definitely one of my favorite openings of all time.
Next time on What's That Movie, we are going to be introducing our endorsed list, where we are going to be, it's hard to say if our third co-host Kayla Marie Albert's here, but next time she is here, we'll make sure to get her endorsed list. But next time...
For those of you who don't know, an endorsed list is our favorite movies. The ones that are, like, stand about any others.
Movies we would definitely recommend, and movies we'll watch repeatedly and never get bored.
We have favorite movies, and then
we have
like even
movies
way further above that is endorsed. Endorsed are the ones that you just can't touch them.
They're top perfect. Of the list.
So
yeah, so that's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be our top 5 endorsed movies. You don't want to miss it because there's gonna be some surprises, I would imagine, and
if you have to miss any episode, do not miss the endorsed one.
No, because season 3 season 3 has been epic so far. You have to admit that. I mean, Kaz is back.
It's true. I pretty much missed all of season 2, didn't I? No,
you were in season 2.
Yeah.
You just missed a lot of season 3.
Most of season 3.
This is only
work.
What
are you gonna do?
We're back. We have our green screen back. It's been
up and running.
But make sure you do not miss that. We have a few websites: facebook.com/whatsthatmovie, youtube.com/whatsthatmovie, which you should be at right now. And you can go ahead and follow us, even though we don't have many followers, on Twitter. At whatsthatmovie_.
We don't really use Twitter very much.
Not really. It's attached to our Facebook, so we have a lot of tweets. But and also
just Tweety.
On the box below, we'll have me and Kaz's personal information as well. Maybe. You can friend us, subscribe to us, and follow us. So until next time, America, this has been Norman McGuire.
And Casman Trowant.
You want to try that again? This has been Norman McGuire.
And Casman Trowant.
We'll see you next time on What's That Movie with the Endorsed Movies episode.
Don't miss it.